Hi, and welcome to another episode of Latina Leadership Series. My name is Angelica Casares, and I am your host. So on today's episode, I am talking to Sandy Garza. Okay, Sandy I've known for a little bit. I've known for some time, like online, like we're IG friends, and she's told, okay, so for the last 2 years during the pandemic, I feel like she's opened up a lot more, like on her profile, on the things that she shares. And so one of the things that like took me aback was that I didn't know she was going through, I don't want to tell her story. I didn't know the things that she was going through. And so when she started to share that part of her, you would have never like guessed it, considering the things that she shared prior to it and the things that she's so joyful and so cheerful. And I was like, wow, that's a huge thing in your life to have gone through. And so on this episode, she talks about that story that she has and she wants to share with you. And I am so happy that she had the vulnerability to open up and share part of her story here with me. So I hope you learn from this story. Usually I say I hope you enjoy the story, but I hope you learn from this story. And she also talks about like her uprising and her career. I hope you enjoyed that part, but I hope you learn mostly from part of her story. Here's her story. Hi, welcome to another episode of Latina Leadership Series. My name is Angelica Casares, and on today's episode, so Sandy, you know what? Let's go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Sandy Garza. Born and raised in Houston. I do a lot of stuff. Blogger, advocate, actress, production crew member. I do a bunch of stuff, so I don't know. It's hard to define myself, but I like to stay busy. A creative. Yes, I'm a creative.
Yeah, it's a stumping word. It's a stumping question. Usually when I ask people what they'd like to introduce themselves, they're like, how? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to touch on? How, who, what, when, where, why? No, okay. But one of the things that, the reason that I wanted to interview was several reasons. But I'm going to take people down a road really quick and get to know you just a little bit. So you mentioned you do acting. I know you do voiceovers. How did you get into it?
Well, how do I? Well, I started modeling. I modeled for major magazines. Can I say names?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I've modeled for Playboy, Maxim, Maxim Espanol, like pretty much any in the early, 2009 to 2012. Anything that was in when print was relevant, I've been in it in some form. And so from there, I naturally fell into acting. I went to go visit a friend on set in LA, and then I'm like, you know what, this is fun. And so that's kind of how it happened, I guess, long story short.
Okay. So what was your first gig there in LA?
Jeez. I was an extra. Actually, it wasn't in LA. I went to Utah. That friend was actually Danny Trejo. I went to.
Oh, shit. By chance. It happened.
By chance. I know. They're like, how do you know him? I'm like, oh, I just, I really. Yeah. That's kind of how actually that happened. So I went to go visit him in Utah, and then the director was like, oh, be an extra. And so that's how that happened. And it seems like every story I've heard, it always ends up like, oh, I just hanging out and I ended up being an extra. So
yeah, they were shooting a pilot for something like out in like one of the towns in Austin. And I was on set and I was like hanging out and I didn't become an extra. No, truly, honestly, I think there is talent, like a talent, like what do they call it? Like a person who searches talents, and sometimes they just happen to be on sets, and sometimes they look out into the people and they know. Yeah. They know kind of what they're looking for. So do I think it's by accident? No. Do I think you would have got into it? Probably.
Yeah.
I think you were destined to do it, honestly.
I think in some form, maybe, like, the interest was there, but I never just had that push, so. Uh-huh. I mean, and the thing is, I like meeting people, and so I guess the whole networking, I mean, I never forced it. It just kind of happened. So that's kind of how I've I've lived my life for a while, just not forcing anything, just letting it be.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the best, honestly, that's one of the best ways to do some of the things that we do. It's just because because you enjoy it, and then making money from it, it's just kind of extra. It just like, you're like, oh, this is fun and I'm getting paid for it. It doesn't even matter like how much, honestly, I think, from like doing this, like what I'm doing here now, it doesn't pay a lot of bills. It pays some.
Exactly.
But I just like doing it. I just love doing it. And so
totally
if people can keep giving me some money to keep doing it, that'll be great. Just saying. So anyway, so going back to the things that you did. Okay, what was the biggest project that you worked on? Or that you just like, it's one of like the highlights of your career so far?
Jeez. I can't. Oh! Yeah, so I ended up, early on in my acting career, well, I always say acting because I don't consider myself, like, just
doing it.
And then I had just gotten an agent, and then I get a call like at 10, and my agent's like, hey, Sandy, these people really want you. Can you drive to Austin the next day? So the gig ended up being for Machete Kills, and I was the naughty nurse, the topless, sexy naughty nurse. The scene got cut, but I was so disappointed.
I was already thinking, like, I need to go watch the movie now.
So I'll tell you what happened. Okay, so in that pool scene where Danny's like laying, he's like dead, or I don't know. No, he's not dead. He's daydreaming, and Mel Gibson walks in. So in this dream, there's a sequence of like these naughty nurses just like, touching his chest. Sorry.
No, you're okay. You're okay.
And so I don't know. Maybe it was too risque, but I mean, it's Robert Rodriguez. So that was cool. And just seeing Mel Gibson, I meet a lot of celebrities, but I'm like,
holy shit, I'm here.
I'm here. All right. And I did it by myself, not because of who I know. So that was kind of like, you know what?
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah.
So, and Danny had no idea that
you were going to be there.
Yeah, because it was so last minute.
Oh, okay. So when he seen you, what did he think? He was like, what the hell?
Exactly. Like, I was in the makeup trailer, and I'm like, hey. And then he turns around, and he's like, Oz. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, just hanging out, and being sarcastic. And so...
That's cool. That's so cool. That is so cool. I know of some of, like, your voiceovers and but your current stuff. I don't know, like, the past, like, a lot of the past stuff that you worked on. That's so cool.
So I hate saying it, because it's like, I hate talking about it.
Okay.
Because, well, I'm not saying, like, I'm not telling you, like, let's not talk about it, but it's that cosa, like, oh, yeah, I did that. So I kept that on the hush a while, but then I'm like, you know what? Why should I be ashamed of it? So, like, I have it on my Instagram. It's on one of the highlights, and I actually kept all of, like, my, I don't know what you would call it, tear sheets, and all the magazines that I was in, and then the whole hydroxycut experience was pretty cool. Okay. So that was like...
So what did you do with hydroxycut? Because everybody knows about hydroxycut. We all know what it is. What did you do with them?
I was overweight. I was 154. For my height, it's a lot. Like, it was...
Yeah, she is tiny.
It was... I'm 5'1", or 5'1", no, I'm 5.5 an inch, so... The driver's like DPS rounds it up to 5'1", and so... So sad.
Yeah, we all want. It's the extra inch that counts. That you're like, I'm 5'1". That's what they said. It's on my freaking driver's license.
But yeah, and it's crazy. I'm telling you. So I was at work, and I was telling my girlfriend, I was like, man, I really want to lose weight, but I want to get paid for it. Crazy. I manifested that. And then I saw a casting call, like, oh, looking for da-da-da-da. I'm like, whatever. Because, I had the same hesitation. And I embraced that opportunity full on. And it was crazy. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it sucked that I was living it alone, I didn't have like a support system, but my family was cheering me on from like afar, here in Texas. So
yeah.
But I learned a lot about myself. Like I think that was the beginning of rediscovering myself.
Okay. To losing the weight. So what you ended up doing is you ended up working with him not only as like an influencer, but like at the core of like an overall thing. I think you were like doing some like posting obviously about it, right? But then like on the back end of things.
Right. Okay. So I can talk about it now, but at the time in 2018, I was like, oh, I'm in a fitness journey. And so every week I would post progress photos.
Okay.
Like they would give me a meal plan and I would work out, and I followed it to the T. Yes, the supplements help, but it's really like, well, it's all in the stomach. I mean, abs are made in the kitchen, literally. So, what was he?
No, you're okay. You're okay. So it is part of the regimen of like actually working out and doing what you need to do. But so I guess the question was that you did a lot of work for them. And that's part of like, I was like, Hydroxycut like pays people for this? Like I didn't know like they were like in the actual like influencer space or paying people to like showcase their product. And so when I came across it was on yours. And so I paid close attention to it because I was like, oh, I didn't know like that, because I myself, and I don't think I've mentioned this on here, but at one time in my life I was 220. I was 220. And so I mean, down like all the weight. I don't tell anybody this because I like it's over time for me. It's been over time, and it just I'm happy where I am, and then just like little by little, and I see the progress, and then years later, like some people will see, like my mom, she'll be like, how much weight have I lost now? And she'll look at me again and she'll be like, you've lost so much weight. I was like, it's been over years, Mom. But I think now that I've lost like 5 pounds, like it's more noticeable apparently to people, and I'm like, you didn't like recognize like all the 30 pounds gone? Like that's not you didn't recognize that? Like, okay. So I paid attention to it. I was like, oh, I wonder what she's doing on top of that. And I know it's the supplements do help, but I was like, I wonder what else she's doing for it. And then I started paying attention, and then so I came across your stuff, and we've been like friends on Instagram, hopefully like, in person.
Yeah.
And so I've been paying attention after that, and then I started watching your stories. Like the stories that you post. And then I definitely started to like pick up on things, and I was like, oh shit, she's on a journey. Like she's on a journey from something. Yeah. And then you started sharing a little bit more information, and I was like, oh shit, she's really on a journey.
Yeah.
I wanted to segue from that to that. That's where I was getting. So what is this journey you're on?
Well, the journey was leaving my toxic environment, but it was also, it was a I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm going to go back to the old Sandy. I call it Sandy 2.0 because I don't want to go back to my old self. Mm-hmm. Because even though I met my ex-partner, like I still, the way I am now was how I was back then before I met my partner. Mm-hmm. But I want to be more empowered. And so that journey that I've been going through for 2 years was recognizing the red flags and rediscovering my worth. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So you left the relationship that you were in. You gave me a little bit of it. But I want to ask you, because you said something earlier when we were having a conversation. You said the first red flag. You met your partner.
Yes.
Y'all dated. How long did you date for?
So, I have a buzz ball. Oh my God. So we met 1 month on set. He was a sound guy and I was the actress. So we didn't fall instantly there because, it was just work. Mm-hmm. And then we reconnected I friended him on Facebook because I was like, man, I just like him. Like, he's just so charming. I was just so drawn to him by his charisma.
You're enamored.
Yes, even though he wasn't feeling me. We went on a date like 2 weeks later, and then we hit it off, but then like, so anyways, not long story short. So to sum up, we met on set, we dated the next month, he proposed the following month, and then the month after that, we were married.
And that's when she told me, she was like, first red flag is that he was trying to get you in the relationship fast. Yeah, he was trying to lock you in, make sure he had. So I know, like, I have to mention, and I have to be honest, I know part of your story. And so I was talking to my husband, I was telling him part of that story. And I was telling him, I was like, she mentions, like, she talks about, like, all this stuff. And I started telling him, like, what was the deal, right? One of the things that partners in that phase that don't want people to know the things that they're doing is the first thing they do is isolate you. What did he do to isolate you? Because I think I know, and I think I picked up on it.
Well, I moved out on my own in 2013 to Austin. So in that time, I met him, but I moved in with him to San Antonio. So I was kind of isolated, but it's like when our disagreements or fights started as early as like the first week after marriage. So when something would happen, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to hop in my car and go back to Houston. And we would make up and I'd go back. That was easy. But now, like, when 4 or 5 years later, we moved to LA to pursue the West Coast dream, he started doing great. I was, I already had connections out there, so I was doing okay. So that's when I really felt the isolation. But at the time, I just didn't see it. And then now, like, I don't beat myself towards it. Like, I did some cool stuff out there despite what was happening behind the scenes, which, like, nobody had an idea. And, I kind of, like, I don't feel angry anymore. I'm still grateful for what I didn't went through with him, but what I did, the cool
things you did out there.
Yes.
Yeah. I definitely get that, Sandy. I think that's one of the things that I definitely wanted to mention here is that when they isolate you, they further isolate you, right? Because it wasn't easy for you to, like, just get in your car and drive back home from Austin or San Antonio. Now you had to get on a plane. You had to justify the reason why you needed to leave back home hours away. And was it worth it to, like, hop on a plane and go back to, and yeah, you get friends and stuff like that, but there's nothing like your friends who know you to the core, like your family who knows you and can definitely guide you differently, who know you to who you are. The reason that I'm talking about this is, for those who don't know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And Sandy, that's part of the story that I wanted to tell on here in the Latina Leadership Series, because it's one of the stigmas around the Hispanic community is not speaking up, not getting help, not even knowing the red flags, not even knowing that you're in trouble or this is a problem, right? We think that if they're not, I don't know, because I've heard these stories, and in my family also, and I don't think this applies to part of your story, but they're like, yeah, he put out a gun on me, but as long as he doesn't pull the trigger, I'm still alive, that kind of situation, right? So many stories are like that. I know so many women, friends, family, that they're like, yeah, put a gun on me, like as if though it's normal, as if it's okay to, and so we stigmatize the conversation. You said something earlier when you said, and I was like, oh shit, that's true. When people say things like, oh, what did you do to make him upset? Why is he like that?
Yeah, some people have the el descaro, or the audacity in English, to just say that. Because I remember I was having lunch by myself and I was crying, I was upset, and this guy comes up to me, he offers me a drink, and I'm like, no, thank you. And so he makes conversation with me, and I tell him, I'm like, I I could not believe. I'm like, you are so ignorant.
That's what he said. What did you do?
I told him that straight up. Because, like, even though I was freshly out of that situation, I was already starting to slowly come into my senses. And I remember that was the moment when I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let anybody say dumb things. I mean, and he ended up being a cool person. He probably didn't know. He wasn't educated. But still, I cannot believe when people... I haven't heard it in a while because I mean, COVID, but I haven't talked to a lot of people, but just... And that's one of one of the things I wrote in my blog was like, what not to say to a survivor, like that. And then, why didn't you just leave? Or, oh my God,
why don't you tell somebody? Yeah. The thing is that it's so easy to, well, first of all, it's so, and for people out there who are listening, if you're already going through some stuff, it's so easy to blame yourself. That's the first thing we do, is we blame ourselves. And then the second thing is we blame our circumstance, and then you go down this road, right? But the last thing you want to do is hear people tell you how it's your fault, and you're like, hold the fuck up, like I got here to know that it's not my fault. So how dare you tell me? How dare you not even have been there, gone through it, and tell me that it is my fault?
Exactly, they were not there. So how, like, when I say it, it's, I don't know, like, just people don't understand. And I think what really, and it still resonates me to this day. I remember I was crying and I was talking to a girlfriend, and she's like, imagine stepping outside of your body and you're looking at the situation. Who are you rooting for? And I'm like, I'm rooting for her. And so that's kind of been I guess my affirmation, my goal. Like, I'm rooting for this girl. I'm rooting for the girl that I'm,
we correct. So usually in our stories we have two protagonists, and we tend to pick sides, and you want people, you know what I mean? And so yes, choosing yourself is definitely the way to go, for sure. But so what did you do when you finally noticed, okay, I gotta get the fuck out of this? What did you do? What was your first step? Or what was your first, like, yep, this is the right choice, I needed to leave, I'm happy I did this? Was it before, months later?
I would say weeks after the last time he put his hands on me. But it still it was around the holidays, so it's not like I could just get up. My parents knew something was wrong because, like, when we were FaceTiming, he wasn't there. I was at a girlfriend's. Like, I wasn't alone, so I was like, you know what? I was in LA, but I was not alone, and spending New Year's and Christmas. And so I was slowly, the first thing I did was I told my parents. I told my sister-in-law, which I'm really close with because I don't have any sisters. So me and her, we have a very close bond. So I told her, we're planning. They sent me money because one big thing that was stopping me was finances. I had $100 in my account, and I say this over and over again to my friends. I was like, it should not be a financial issue. So I had enough to just get me through to drive. I literally had to plan on my notes on my iPhone, plan an itinerary down to the gas stations, and then I added my family on the Find My Phone app so they would know as I'm driving alone. So I had to make a plan of escape, which I didn't know that they teach you that. In counseling.
Yeah, they have names for things that you did.
A safety plan.
People on here know that I've 10 years on and off therapy, and Angelica Casares, she's an expert at this point. She's a certification. She's 10 years into it, and I will advocate I've accepted the fact that I might be in and out of therapy my entire life, and that's okay with me. I am perfectly fine with that because it's what's kept me here. It's what one has kept me sane, 2 has kept me productive, and 3 has kept me just I don't know, fighting just like for basic shit, like getting out of bed. You're like, oh, that's right, therapist said that I need to, yes, that's what I need to do. Or when I'm like having one of my downward spirals, I go back to like my tools of like the things that I learned in therapy. I'm like, oh, that's right. This isn't productive and this is productive. So
therapy is awesome.
I'm an advocate. Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. Therapy is awesome. Like I wish I would have done this sooner. Like I begged my ex, I was like, let's go to couples therapy. When I started going by myself, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I regret it.
Yeah.
I regret it. So yeah, I'm jealous of you.
10 years to break. I've never heard that. Thank you, Sandy. But so one of the things, yeah, for sure. So, and a lot of the conversation around like the stigma and stuff, you're thinking to yourself, you're like, oh, she must be crazy. Yes, I'm wild as fuck. Ando loca.
Aren't we all?
Dude, at some
seriously.
point. Yeah, I've learned to accept my crazy. I've learned to accept my crazy. I'm fine with it. I'm okay with it. So to Domestic Awareness Month, if you had to say something to somebody who is a survivor of domestic abuse, or if you had to say somebody who's in the situation, what would you say?
Oh, I would just listen. Sometimes you just need because I wasn't in that situation, you need somebody to talk your story. And then, oh God, it's honestly so hard because every story is different. There's no easy way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I've had a girlfriend who called me, and it was so unexpected. And she was calling me crying that her husband beat her, and I listened to her. I didn't say anything. I just let her talk. And she was like, what do you think? I'm like, you need to know, you need to listen to yourself, to your inner voice, because only you know what's good. I was like, I'm not going to judge you if you go back to him. Because I've had, like, the few people that knew about the situation judged me, and rightfully so. But, like you said earlier, they weren't there.
Yeah.
So, no one's really going to understand, but I know that they would want to be heard. If they want to ask for help, sure.
I think I know where you're going with that. I think what you're saying is, one, maybe it's not information to give to girls or women who are going through it, but yet the family and friends of girls who are going through it, if they come to you, listen. They need you to listen. Don't judge, just listen. And to the girls who are going through, and the women who are going through it, or who are survivors of it,
there is help out
keep
there.
Talking.
Yeah.
Keep talking. Throughout that talking, you might find somebody who's willing to listen. So keep talking, right? Because the last thing we want is for oh my God, for you to be sent to the hospital or worse, have your life taken.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I definitely got what you were saying. Did you want to add on? I mean, am I saying?
Yeah.
I would hate to interpret for you.
On the head.
Okay.
Because it's a really good question. I know because during this pandemic, like, I would say, like, I can't count at the top of my head, but there was a couple of close friends that you probably know too. Mm-hmm. They were telling me, and I'm like, I just listened, and they went on and on and on, and I'm like, I listened, and I did not judge. Yeah.
I mean, because it's the first thing we do. It's easy to judge, to be like, oh, whatever, or I knew. But yeah, they don't need your judgment. They need you to be there. They need you to be a friend. They need you to be a family, an aunt, a tia, a cousin, a mom, a sister. They just need you. They need you because ultimately that might be the thing that saves their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if they ask for advice, cool, but I'm not going to judge them.
Yeah.
I got judged so much for going back to my ex so many times. And there were so many stopping points where I had that chance to leave him, and I didn't. I went back to him. Because the whole stigma of for better or worse.
Yeah. That's what keeps us in that cycle. So yes, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I know your story partly, and I wanted you to talk about it, and thank you for talking about it. But I don't want to leave the conversation here. I want to ask you a few more questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So if you can, donate to your women's area center, wherever it is that you live, especially here. Okay. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. I'm going to ask you a few questions. I hope you don't mind. Okay. So we're going to get to know you a little bit. Have you ever been wrong? So I guess you don't have to mention, you have to go into like what it was that you were wrong about. And did you learn your lesson?
Oh, yeah. I learned my lesson to not rush into a relationship. I learned to communicate. I learned to speak for myself. When something bothered me, I would just kind of bite my tongue. Yeah, there's so many things I'm like, man, you know what? But I can't beat myself over that. Like I had to forgive myself and forgive him. That was one of the hardest things. Like, yeah, I still like, there's some days where I'm like, you know what? I hate his guts and it just goes up and down. But I can't dwell on what I could have done wrong because I'll never move on. Yeah, it's difficult. A big part of it is forgiving yourself for forgiving yourself. Yeah. Not only like others, but forgiving yourself. It's definitely the hard, because you're like, I was so stupid. I could have done this. I could have done that. That is difficult to be like, I knew myself. I knew I was smarter. And I how dare I do that? It's difficult to accept and then forgive. Yeah. I like that lesson. Be able to forgive yourself. Okay. Well, a little bit lighted. Is there a personal goal you'd like to achieve within the next 5 years? I would like to start a nonprofit. So I guess that would be short-term goal. Okay. To help women. Like, I'd like to set it in southeastern Pasadena area where I grew up and help there, because I feel like, you know, us brown people, the minorities, where it's, I may be wrong with this whole statistics, but I know that our race is like up there. That affects that we're in that category where I guess we fall into that cycle. Yeah, there are some statistics out there, but I guess it would be, we don't, for example, one, we barely talk about it, and two, we definitely don't like, so there would be no way to actually say like, oh, this is how many women of color, brown, you know, Hispanic, like actually report abuse, because they don't even report it. So there's no gauge of how many are out there. Exactly. I mean, so, but yes, teen violence is big, you know, among like partners. Yeah. Like you start to get used to being groomed into being a partner and submissive and stuff like that. And that's a thing. So yes. And I feel like social media just like now, I don't know, gosh, I feel like it just fuels fuel to the fire with the teen. It does. It's horrible. It does. So yes, that's a really amazing goal. However and whenever, if you need me to support Sandy, just let me know. Yes. Okay. Do you consider yourself an optimist or a pessimist? I don't know. I would say optimist. Oh no. That's hard. I would. Oh gosh. Okay, so it's two parts. So I would say I'm optimist. Like, I cheer for other people. I will cheer you on, but I am a pessimist because I just beat myself.
Yeah.
Like, I am my word. I mean, I think we all are, but no,
So it's a two-parter, yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yes and no, no and yes.
Yeah.
You decide which way it goes.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's see. Is there something you like to try but you never had the nerve to do it?
Skydiving.
Is that it? I told my husband the same thing. I want to free fall. I want to feel what it feels like to free fall because I want to know if it's the same as in my dream.
Oh my.
Have you ever had that where you like you're free falling in your dream and you're like jolt and you're like, I want to know if it's the same feeling.
Yes, I do that in my sleep a lot, and I've done that since I was a kid. Holy, I thought I was the only. Okay, great.
The free fall. I have this one dream too, and I thought, where there's one where I would hop and then you kind of float, and then you come down and you hop again and you float.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I was just the crazy one having those dreams. I mean, I'll tell you about my other dreams. That one time it was around Easter. I had you remember those? You know those marshmallows that are made out of like figures, like bunnies. And they're made out of like a bunch of things. Okay, I had a dream that there was a bunch of those marshmallows like in my yard, like during Easter, and they were hopping around, but they were made of marshmallows, and I was like chasing them around. And then one time I had a dream of a spider made of Legos. Shit gets crazy with me. I have vivid dreams, and I think it's because of like I have like my sinuses and stuff, like I get congested, and so I get like and I get sick a lot, and so when I get sick I get like vivid dreams, and I'm like, okay. But that one that I want to try is free falling the same? Does it feel the same as in my dream? But yeah, so skydiving, not like bungee jumping, none of that, skydiving.
Yeah, I want to do that. I mean, I'm scared of heights, like terrified.
So am I.
So, oh my gosh. So, quick story. I remember one time me and my ex, we were in Denver, and I told him I'm scared of heights. He's like, whatever, you're just being so dramatic. We were going so high up in the Rocky Mountains, like to the point where it wasn't two lanes. It was just like a one way. Mm-hmm. It was this private trail that was only open a certain part of the year. Holy crap, I was hyperventilating because I couldn't see the ground. Like, it's just sky. And then I'm like, and then he's like, oh crap, you were really scared of heights. So he just like pushed me, and I'm like, oh my God, I cried.
Who was driving? He was?
Yeah.
He was driving, and you were...
I was on the passenger side.
So the ride up was like on your, like...
On my side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, nah.
I heard about the elevations up there. I heard people pass out from like the thin air.
Yeah, it's horrible. Like I had gone to see the Astros play out there, and then when I was going up the stairs to get a drink of water, I'm like, man, I know I'm out of shape, but like I could feel my muscles pulsate. And I just stuck my head under the water fountain, and I'm like, I want some water. It's real.
It gets crazy. Yeah. The elevation of things. My husband keeps trying to take me to Colorado to like, he's like, yeah, it's so pretty. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not going to get a nosebleed and pass out. Like, I'm not doing that with you. That's fine. We can do something else at some other point.
Baby steps.
Yeah. Last question. How does your life compare to how you imagined it would be growing up?
Oh man, I never thought I would be.
I'm sorry.
I always knew I was a creative. Like growing up, creative. Like I was in orchestra and the dance team, so that was. I knew that it was in me to entertain. Mm-hmm. But then, like, I went to college. I got my degree in interior design because my parents were like, "You gotta go to college." And I'm like, "Okay." So I went, and I graduated. And then I did work for 2 architectural firms. And then 2008, that's when the recession hit. Mm-hmm. I got laid off twice. And I was like, man, I can't like do this because I was the new hire. So they let me go. And that's pretty much the segue that got me into acting. Mm-hmm. because I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in a cubicle. I was so miserable working. And I'm like, and ever since then, I haven't looked back. I've worked as a contractor, I guess, whether it's behind the camera, you know, doing crew work, styling, set designing, or in front of the camera. I was like, you know what? I can't like, it's not about my looks or the talent. Like, I need side hustles. I need a backup plan. So that was always my mentality since then. And yeah, this recently, I'm like, man, all my side hustles, like, what am I going to do? Crap. I'm still figuring that out.
They paid off, though.
Yeah.
They're paying off. They paid off. I didn't know so you went to school as an interior design. Now I'm just interested. You went to school for interior design and you worked at what was it? Architecture firm. Dang, you have like a long, like history. I thought you went straight into like, like some form of like acting, maybe like doing like, you know how they have like small theaters. I thought that maybe you did that like early on, and then you got into like the magazine or something, and then I didn't even know all of this. Dang, she has like a history. Hello, holy shit, that's amazing. Congratulations.
But yeah, like, of course my parents were like, why, like, they haven't done it in years, but they was like, oh, why aren't you doing something with your degree? And I and it kind of came full circle. So after I got married, I didn't do as much acting. I did more behind the scenes or like crew work, and I got to design sets. I actually had helped, I guess in production terms, I was in art department, so I helped set dress the rose ceremony for the Bachelorette when they were in San Antonio years ago. So that was one of my, like, when I got that gig, which was the first of many, I'm like, tell my parents, like, see, I'm using my degree in some form. Ha. So that was
like the set up, yeah. Yeah, nice. Oh my God, Sandy, I'm even learning. I thought I had like, so usually I'll have people come in and I'll talk and then I kind of like get to know, but you're just like full of surprises. You're freaking amazing. But we have to like close out. So I ask all the Latinas at the end of every interview, do you consider yourself a leader? And do you consider yourself a Latina leader?
Yes.
Shit, hell yeah. What would you think was one of the credentials to consider yourself a leader?
My story.
Yeah.
My story.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sandy, for coming and joining me and having this amazing conversation. I'm so happy you came to get to know you even better. I hope we continue this.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So do you want to wave at my camera? Bye. And thank you for joining. Bye. What did you think? There was a part where she was like, yeah, my friend Danny Trejo. And I was like, what? Wait, what? She's just such a bubbly person. She's just such a dynamic personality. And I'm so happy to have invited her here to sit next to me, to sit down, talk to me, tell me the things that, you know, that there's some aspect, like you get to know people like on Instagram, like on, you know, on social platforms, you get to know people even through their like social channels, and like maybe like if they have like a YouTube channel where they do like vlogs or they just share their personal lifestyle, you get to know part of their story. But there is something different that happens when you get to know somebody one-on-one. And I'm just so enamored with her. I'm so grateful that she came on here to share her story. Like I said from the beginning, I hope you enjoyed her story, but I also hope you learned something from part of her story. So there you have it. I'll see you next time.